Hi, my name is Diana Williams and I'm a portrait artist. In the 10-year challenge of teaching myself, I recognized there were some things that I needed to consider as I developed my process. Those two things are time and pain level management. Everything about my method revolves around these needs. I don't advocate the practice of tracing an image for several reasons. For instance, tracing is not going to teach your brain how to draw. There is no thinking involved, and the artist often makes mistakes because of the opaqueness of the paper. Also, tracing is not useful for enlarging the image unless you have a lot of expensive equipment. I can draw freehand and have done so for most of my life, but there is evidence that the use of a grid or other tools has been employed by artists for millennia. I chose to use the grid method in order to save time and lessen the strain on my body. I encourage my students to use the grid as well, as it also helps to assure a good likeness, and over time it can train the eye to see proportions better. Using a grid can be confusing. It is easy to make small mistakes which can add up. Even with the tools available, I knew there had to be a better way. Now, I am making this video in order to demonstrate how to use Diana's grid tool in a way no other system can do. Follow me now while I draw the grid. Be sure to listen carefully to the tips and hints so that you will use Diana's grid tool with ease and success. You can use this grid like with a photo print like this or any drawing that you have. I recommend that if you have a small photo that you enlarge it to at least the size of a sheet of typing paper. You can work with a color print, but not a glossy on heavy paper. I like to use a grayscale print. If you plan to do a lot of portraits, you will need to find the best solution in your area for getting prints made. You will need a canvas of the size that you want to make your painting, and you will need a mechanical pencil because there's no sharpening required and all your lines will be consistent. There are 7 sizes available in the toolkit. Always begin with the smallest one. It is 2 inches wide, but the primary marks are in 1-inch segments. You will see why this is important as we continue. These segments are further divided into 1/2-inch segments with dashed lines so that you have the option to make additional marks which will help you to do your drawing. Please note that the segments are evenly spaced from the bottom up, and any remaining portion that is uneven is in the area where the measure label is. You will see that every tool is marked evenly in each specific size. This eliminates the possibility of mismeasuring. Don't get confused by trying to understand all this. Right now, we are only marking our photo reference or drawing. I fold the image gently on each side and I mark with a tiny crease right there. And then you can put a little pencil mark in there so you know where that is. And you do that on each side. And you put a mark on each side all the way around. I want to point out another convenience about Diana's grid tool that you will come to appreciate as you use it. Diana's grid tool is etched on the reverse side. As you place your tool on the drawing, be sure the label side is up, facing you. This way, the lines will be directly on the paper and they will cause no shadows to distort your marks. As you place your tool to mark each preceding line, you will want to place it so that the etching will obscure your previous line. Always mark both middle lines, the one going down and the one going across. And I try to put an X right in the middle. That'll help you not to get confused. As you place your tool to mark the next proceeding line, you have to make sure that the 1-inch mark, that would be in the middle, is on top of the line that you placed. And if you do that, then every mark you make will be exact. You can make, as long as you hold this snugly, you can make 2 marks for your first one. And then you move it across. You make sure you place this middle line on top of the line you made before. As long as that etching is down, it will not throw a shadow, and your line that you make here will be precise. And you make the marks the whole way across, and then you make them this way the whole way across so you get that filled up. And then you place this on the other side, the other direction, and make sure it is firmly on that line. And then you mark all of the 1-inch segments that way and then this way so that the whole page is covered. You will see that here I have marked not only the 1-inch segments, but I have also marked the 1/2-inch segments, and then I have marked the diagonals. When you do diagonals, you do not use any of these markings here. You must use this straight edge to find all of the corners that are exactly in line and make sure that the straight edge is lined up precisely with those corners. And then you mark your diagonals, and you do it both ways. All you have to do is make sure you start in the middle. That's the easiest place. And then you find your corners for each square, and then you mark those diagonals that way. It's not necessary to fill the whole page with diagonals. If you want to just fill the most detailed areas with diagonals, but if it's easier for you to just fill the whole page, then you can do that too. Now we must decide what size we want to make our portrait. You should have a general idea of the size canvas you need, but now you must enlarge your drawing so that it fits the canvas. Don't let this part confuse you. You know the measurements of your drawing or photo reference that you have just drawn your grid on. And you also know the measurements of the canvas that you'd like to use. Begin with the shorter edges, the shorter photo reference, and the shorter canvas size. The photo reference is 8.5 inches on the shorter size, and this canvas is 12 inches. You may use the calculators to divide 12 by 8.5, which is the same as 8.5. And that comes out to 1.4 with all these numbers. Don't pay any attention to them. Just look at the 1.4, and that's close to a half. Then you can take the larger edge of the drawing, which is 11, and the larger edge of the canvas, which is 16. So we divide 16 by 11, and that number also is close to the 1.4 as well. The extra numbers don't matter too much. The important thing is that you can't have 2 different measurements. If that is happening for you, you may be trying to fit a large square image onto a skinny rectangular canvas. So try to choose a canvas that is similar in size and shape to your image. You can also allow your multiplications to determine the size of the canvas if you don't have one picked out already. Multiply the sides of your image by the size of the tool you're going to be using. And we have 7 tools to choose from, so you can multiply. This one is 1.5 inches. I've got 1 3/4 inches. There are sizes all the way up to, if you're going to make a very large one, this one will multiply your image by 3 inches and you'll have a very large painting. For this one, we are going to use the 1 1/4 or 1.25 inch Diana's grid tool. And we lay it down exactly as I had said, right on the line, and then you begin to draw your lines. You're going to want to keep your lines light to medium and use a medium weight paper similar to typing paper. It's best that you make your drawing paper the exact size of the canvas you're going to use. You just unroll your paper and lay your this is the best way, if you line it up with the edge so that it's nice and straight. It's easiest if you just take a pencil and draw it around the canvas. This doesn't have to be perfect, but it'll give you the right size paper. And then just take a pair of scissors and cut this out. You could use any ruler and mark this off in the sizes that you need your squares to be. But you can make small mistakes, and that's what we're trying to avoid. I want you to make sure you remember, when you have your line down and across in the middle, put a little X here. That'll help you always be able to orient your drawing to that middle mark. I'm briefly going to show you how you draw your image on the grid we've created. And the reason for that is that I want to make sure that you have a chance to see how we use Diana's grid tool to double check what we've done. So when we're working with this grid, you can orient with this X that we've made in the very middle. And you must always begin in the middle. It just helps a lot. So here's the same X, and I can see just about where to put the lines. And you see I've already drawn the eye, and I've already drawn the eyebrows that are there, and you can tell that I've put the features in. And I don't worry too much about getting everything precise, but the thing that I do get precise is the measurement. So make sure that you go by these marks to tell that you're positioning every feature in exactly the right size. That's more important than getting every little piece of it perfect. The way to use Diana's grid tool to check your drawing is line your grid tool up on your photo reference with both the cross lines and the straight up and down lines exactly on the line that is around the part you want to see. So we're looking at this eye right now, and I have these lines lined up exactly where they need to be. And then you take the grid tool that you used to mark the paper, and you line them up this way and this way so that they are exactly on the lines, and you look at it and you say to yourself, is this portion of the drawing exactly the same here as it is here? And you will be able to see that every part of it is exactly where it needs to be, matching this. And that's the way you can double check. And you can move that around your image. You can get these teeth exactly where they need to be, and all the other parts of the drawing, you can double check them and make sure they're exactly where they need to be. I know that when you receive your Diana's grid tool, that you will be very happy with the application of these tools, and that you will complete a gridded drawing with ease and success.